Hi, students. I know you're unable to see me, but it's okay because we're just going to go over that video that I posted for you guys that you watched about book genres. So, we're going to get a little bit more into it. They might have spoke a lot about book genres and maybe we didn't get an understanding of exactly what they meant. So, we're going to go over exactly what they said there. Only Miss Whitfield's going to break it down a little bit more for us, okay? So, we're going to start with book genres. And book genres or categories or types of books you can find in the library, okay? Anything can happen in a book. So that's why we have genres. That means different types of books that can be put into the same category, okay? Because they have the same content in them. All right, so there are two types of books that we can categorize in the library to say that they're either fake or they're real. So last week we learned a little bit about nonfiction and fiction. This week we're going to go into what fiction genres are, okay? And that just means fiction type of books. So, in fictional stories, the author writes from their imagination instead of using facts, right? So we know that fiction means fake or made up. In these fictional stories, they can be scary, they can be funny, they can happen a long time ago, or they can happen in the future. There are three genre groups in fictional stories. Those three genre groups are realistic fiction, fantasy fiction, and folk tales. Realistic fiction means that things happen in the book. Things that happen in the book could happen in real life, okay? So that means that you could read a book about going to school. Okay, Mary may go to school, she may get on the bus to come home, and then the author writes about her mother making her a peanut butter sandwich and her friends playing in the backyard, okay? So Mary may not be a real character, she may be made up, but it's still realistic because we can do all of those things. So in realistic fiction, the characters look and act like us. In historical fiction, however, it's realistic fiction that takes place in the past with characters from the past. So when you read a historical fiction book, it may be something like George Washington, and George Washington may be, um, let's say, meeting you, right? So the book may be about how George Washington is going to come to Nottoway Elementary School and tell you all about how it was back when he was the first president of the United States. Well, it that makes it fiction because we know that George Washington can't come to Nottoway now, right? There may be a George Washington, but the first president of the United States couldn't because he's no longer with us. So that would make it historical fiction, okay? Fantasy fiction. In these stories, characters have mysterious powers and can even have talking animals or mythical creatures like dragons, okay? Anything can happen in fantasy fiction. So in fantasy fiction, um, let's say, just like how we read, there was an old lady who swallowed a pie, right? So, um, she can't actually swallow a pie, right? I mean, you can if you chew it up, you can swallow it, but you can't actually swallow a pie, so that would make it fantasy. Science fiction is usually set in the future. Instead of magic, the stories are scientific knowledge. They can have aliens or robots. So normally in science fiction, there's some type of new technology, or there's magic, like in Harry Potter. And then we have folk tales, which teach moral lessons and show us to be good, kind, and respectful. Folk tales could be stories like Little Red Riding Hood, Cinderella, or more. Okay. In folk tales, the good always beats the evil. Okay. Folk tales also has fairy tales in the genre. Okay. Often starts off once upon a time and has a prince or a princess and a guiding wise voice. So it might not always be just a prince or a princess. It could be someone, just a main character who has, like, for instance, in Pinocchio, Jimmy the Cricket, who tells him things that are wise when he's going to make bad choices, right? Also, in the folk tales are tall tales, myths, legends, and I think it's one more, but all that we have right now. So, folk tales are moral lessons. Moral lessons mean they teach us right from wrong, or teach us things in a way we may not have thought about them before.